Hi and welcome back. This is another installment in Conversations with Autism Thought Leaders, and this afternoon I've got the good fortune of sitting down with Dena Gassner. And Dena is not only a marvelous speaker, she is somebody that's on the spectrum with a complete understanding, again, of what it's like to be neurotypical, or at least understand to look like neurotypical, as well as being somebody that's dealing with a position on the spectrum. But I'd like to have her tell you a little bit more about herself. In fact, let's start with that. If you wouldn't mind giving the people that are watching a background in your education and then how you came about your interest in autism. Let's start with that.
Well, I'm a social worker by training.
Okay.
I have a master's degree in social work from the University of Kentucky, and I worked at Cincinnati Children's Hospital learning multidisciplinary evaluations. And my job on those teams was to evaluate the family functioning and see if anything we could do to support the family in supporting their child with an autism difference. And my interest began with my son. Patrick is now 18. At the time, he was about 4 years old when I went back to school to get my master's. And in the midst of my master's degree, around 1999, I started seeing some different expressions, is the word Tony Atwood likes to use, of autism. And I started to realize that I was more like my son than different.
And how old were you at that time?
38.
Okay. Was it traumatic to learn that?
Actually, it was quite a relief. I had gone through an entire adult lifetime being diagnosed in pieces, if you will. But once I found out I had autism, it was sort of the glue that put all the pieces together. And I started to realize that a lot of the experiences I've had were not caused by the actual outcome, but they were started with, they were a result of being naive, being vulnerable, being easily manipulated, not having language to defend myself or protect myself. All those pieces came together, for example, to result in trauma issues in my life.
Had you gotten your education by that time, or were you, as you say, this was the glue? Is this what gave you your biggest interest in autism? And then if that's the case, how do you see yourself functioning in the whole realm of the autism community? What is it you're trying to resolve or trying to find?
Well, my inspiration came from my son. My passion came from the immersion experience I had at the Autism Society of America's National Conference, being in my culture, being with my friends and my autism family, if it were. When I train, I often say, sometimes the trauma that you've experienced from people who didn't understand you is so profound that you need to walk away from those old relationships and build a family. And at ASA, I found a family. You know, Stephen Shore is my colleague and a very precious friend, and he has supported me a great deal. Valerie Paradis is another woman on the spectrum, and we have often supported one another. We've done some work together, and with her and some other women, we had the first ever panel of women with autism differences. Ruth Elaine Hain, who is a board member for ASA, who has a very quiet Zen-like quality to herself, which is very different from my personality, taught me a lot about a different kind of leadership and centeredness. And mostly from all of them, I learned that I was never going to have success trying to be someone I couldn't be. And I was giving myself permission to have autism and embrace it and own it and learn to live and manage with it successfully as compared to trying to pretend it wasn't there. I'd already tried that, and it doesn't work.
Actually, and I know a little bit of the ending of the story already. That's a great segue into what would be the three biggest learnings, the three key learnings that you've acquired in the amount of time that you've been an autism thought leader.
Well, obviously, my first thing, and it's sort of shocking to some families because since our children are in the institutional setting of education, we are programmed through the medical model, through the educational model, to believe that good parents try to help their children achieve normalcy in their lives. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to people on the spectrum who are quite successful, I look at my friend Stephen with his multiple degrees and his PhD and an impending university placement to teach next fall, And I realized that the people who come through this whole and healthy and successful are people who are living without shame, people who have management skills associated, they have language to ask for what they need, and they're being authentic.
Okay.
And so I think the second lesson would be normal doesn't exist.
Normal doesn't exist.
It's a moving target.
Okay.
It's always changing. It is dichotomous to the rest of our culture, where when we have a typical child, we try to help them to become unique, and we tell them just say no and don't going along with the crowd, and don't be like everyone else. But when our child is born like their own unique selves, we try to make them like everyone else, and that doesn't make any sense in any realm. So helping your child to become normal is something that will break them. They can never be normal, A, because it doesn't exist, and B, because they are who they are. However, an achievable goal for every child is for them to become the very best person they can be.
Okay.
And that's the goal we need to be striving for.
And that's what I heard today a lot in your talk, which is a child, you would no sooner take a child with another physical disability and try to make them normal than try to help them be the best that they can be the way they are. And that's the theme I kept hearing again and again as you were talking about people that are on the spectrum. Rather than trying to make them fit a mold, help them be the best that they are.
And I do this conversation with parents mostly, but also for teachers. But I do it because they say, well, I'm really not sure he should have to do this like everyone else. But they're doing it with an apologetic tone and in a whisper. And I want them to know that they should be empowered and be okay with asking for what their child needs. My child doesn't work well in groups. Well, where's the rule that says they have to? Why can't they contribute to the group by doing one of the tasks of the task project? Why can't they just do the PowerPoint presentation for the group? And so I hope that what I'm doing is giving parents permission to celebrate their child's difference and to give them a voice to express what their child wants and needs and their philosophy for their child's future, rather than simply conforming to this institutional concept of what life should be like.
So might that be the third learning, to celebrate?
Yes, to
and
celebrate.
Again, to thrive with autism. If you have a chance to hear Dena give a presentation somewhere, please don't miss it, because it's very educational. Now, where can people go to get more information on you? Do you have a website?
I'm actually a client with vocational rehabilitation,
Okay.
and I'm just opening my business officially. It's called the Center for Understanding.
Okay.
And my email address is D as in dog, Gassner, Gassner, my last name, at fuse, FUSE.net. And if you Google me, there's a lot of presentations I've done where you can track me down. I'm doing this interview in cooperation with Answer here in Minnesota, and they can track me down. I'm also an advisory board member for the Autism Society of America. You can always get me through ASA.
Autism Hangout is also fortunate enough to have Dena as one of our autism thought leaders that has presented us with a couple of papers. You can find them elsewhere on the site. And we're thrilled anytime we get an opportunity to have somebody such as Dena give us some of her insights. So thank you again.
Thanks for having me.